Here she is, Belinda Waymouth. Belinda, sorry about that. I think I didn't send you the link, or someone didn't.
Do you guys love me or what?
Yes, we love you
whoever
very
they
much.
are who didn't send it to you, they should be
Good day, sir.
Right, let go.
I think a spanking is in order, guys. I really do.
Wow, that's
Dirty pots and pans.
Well, our time is shortened now.
Yeah,
and
I've got some important stuff to tell you.
All right, talk. You go. I'll shut up.
Okay. All right. So, hi everybody. It's great to be here. So there was a story that came out this week. It's research out of UC Davis, and I have to say, I love those guys at UCLA. I mean, at the UCs. This is UC Davis, not UCLA, but the UC.
And they're Sacramento, right? Exactly.
Yeah. Because it's amazing when scientists come up with you know how I always love the the sort of low tech, high impact, and I feel like this is really that. We talk a lot on the show about nuclear, and here we've had these guys who have developed these new solar panels. And what they are going to do is an array will allow farmers to harvest energy from the sun and also grow their crops. So this is a win-win. The arrays they're translucent and they're sort of arranged like a canopy above the crops. And the thing that's really amazing about what they do is, we've talked before on the show how solar uses the blue photons, from visible light. They're the ones with the short, high frequency wavelength, and they sort of give the photovoltaic silicon panels the jolt that creates the electricity. But that's only a small portion of the light, so they're not super efficient. And the thing that's great about these translucent ones is, yes, they're capturing the blue light, with the array that's on top of the crops, but they're allowing the red light, which is the red part of the spectrum, which is what the plants need to still go through, hit the plants. And the red light is kind of the Goldilocks of the photons. It's the right amount of intensity for plants. And it increases their photosynthesizing, their carbon assimilation, while lowering their transpiration, which means they are going to absorb more carbon, grow super well, and not need as much water. And we're going to be producing electricity at the same time.
So
cool,
you
right?
see in that, you see in that the way technology is changing, even the efficiency and the other aspects beyond just efficiency of some of these alternative energy programs.
Yeah. And the thing is, look, our need for land is only increasing. I mean, you and I think are on the same page about this, Mark. We hate how much of grasslands and forests have been cleared to make way, for agriculture and for us. But the fact is, back in 1960, there were 3 billion people on the planet. So around about the time some people on the show were being born, there were only 3 billion of us. Last November, 2022, 8 billion. And by 2050, which is only another 27 years away, there are going to be 10 billion people on the planet. So we're going to need more food. It's going to be hotter. Water is going to be, super it's going to be a resource that's going to be, in high demand. So,
yeah,
exactly. Absolutely.
Wars will be fought over it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, they already are. This is the thing. We already, they call it blue gold, and yes, wars are already being fought over it. The Nile, people up, stream using too much water. Yes, countries go to war over it. So to have these, to have an agrivoltaic solution, that will make the crops more efficient, use less water. And the other beautiful thing about the shade is the workers who are working and who are harvesting those crops, they will be in the shade, not in that sunlight. And remember, when we have hot summers here, the conditions in the Central Valley for our, agricultural workers is brutal. So if we could provide shade for them, it's environmental justice as well. So I think it's really amazing. And we have to be looking for these solutions that, do all these things at the same time. And then also, once they're being manufactured, they would be able to take them to the developing world, and they would be able to, become part of the infrastructure super easily, much more easily, what I'm going to say, much more easily than one of these small nuclear power plants. You'd be able to put, these arrays above crops. It's not highly technical stuff. They're simple. They're on poles. They're up above the crops, and you're creating this. As I always bleat on about, this low tech, high impact solution.
Well, I also think that you touch on something here where you suggest, hey, look, it is not the only answer; it's part of the answer, and so I kind of like your approach to that as well. Belinda, so that's the evolution of technology when it comes to solar. What else do you have?
Yeah, that's the good news.
Oh, great.
And I don't know if you already talked about this on the show this week, but did you see the report this week about freshwater fish and how contaminated it is?
I saw it, but I didn't talk about it, so please get to it.
Well, it's, obvious. It's kind of a no-brainer. If it's in fresh water, it's closer to us. So it's closer to all the industrial chemicals that, companies are allowed to put in waterways. But the finding that freshwater fish, particularly from the Great Lakes, where you'd think there'd be quite a lot of dilution because they're so big, but, eating, one serving of that fish is like drinking highly contaminated water, a glass of highly contaminated water for a month if you want to load up on PFAS. And those are the forever chemicals that make fabric, stain resistant, water resistant, all those things. And it's just, awful that, we're drinking, and ingesting our own pollution. It's outrageous. I mean, it shouldn't be happening. And then it also makes the case for, eating a more plant-based diet as long as, the plants are, grown without, too many chemicals. So it sort of comes back around to the solar panels that we were talking about, earlier, and making crops more efficient, and that would be a kind of thing to do for the planet, than eating, fish, meat, all that stuff. But it's crazy, Mark. It's crazy to me that we, ingest our own plastic waste. We ingest these chemicals. We need tighter regulations, not looser. And, it's awful that we have, a Congress that, is now, in the business of, trying to loosen regulations.
Yeah, well, I always say that regulations are protections, particularly in this case. You want to protect the water, protect the air, protect the soil, and this is a classic example of what I've spoken of for years, which is simply, guys, the runoff, the effluents, that goes into our waterways, if it's full of pesticides, those pesticides are in the water. Similarly, if you treat the ocean like an open sewer, you will end up with fish that swim in an open sewer, and you're going to ingest a lot of what they're eating and consuming as well. And similarly, you've talked about these PFAs here, these forever chemicals that are in those nonstick pans and all the rest, that they're everywhere. I mean, literally everywhere. And they're all over in our bodies. They cause cancers and all kinds of other illnesses. And so to find them in the soil, in the air, and in the water is, on the one hand, no surprise, but on the other hand, it should be alarming. So the other thing I would say is that I saw in the chat that somebody said, well, farm fish is the right idea. Let me tell you a little something about farm fish. I'll just do 30 seconds on it because it's really Belinda's platform. But they farm fish the same way they farm your pigs and pork and chickens and fill in the blank. They push them in against each other in super small areas. I'm talking about farm fish, okay? These are farm grown, farm fed with all the best whatever. And they now are so crammed in, just like the other four-legged creatures that I described, or two-legged creatures in the case of chicken. And that way they are now what? Consuming their own feces, consuming it's horrible the way they raise these fish. Farm-fed fish or farm-bred fish, no. So you end up with a real problem. You have to start getting clear about how these various creatures are raised. That's why I do favor regulations, protections that specify how these things can go down. Anyway, that's my word about farm fish.
Well, one of the things, and here, Mark, and I get it. I'm not for this, sort of industrial scale raising of animals. Wrong. And the farmed fish, I mean, they're clearing mangrove swamps all over, Asia to put in shrimp farms. And I'm like, you need those mangroves. They're a huge carbon sink, and they're the first line of defense against storms and bad weather, so to, take that ecosystem out. And also, it's where, they're the when fish are born, they start out often in the mangroves, and then they migrate out to the coral reef to reach maturity before they go into the open ocean. So, yeah, there's a huge. I like in the comment, I liked farmed tofu. The thing that they found with the freshwater fish, that actually some freshwater fish that's farmed is less toxic than the ones found in the Great Lakes, because the farmers who are raising those fish are actually using, water from the aquifers to do it. So that is sort of an ironic twist. But
where can I find the information as to where my fish are farmed?
Well, that's the problem.
Wouldn't it be nice if that was right on the package? If you knew exactly what was happening? On the package in
the restaurant, exactly, please.
Yeah. Well, I used to be really into, if it had the Marine Stewardship Council seal of approval, it was MSC on it. I was like, oh, that's great. I can buy this fish. And then I read the story about the fisheries getting the Marine Stewardship Council seal of approval by paying to have themselves rated, by the MSC, kind of audited.
Yeah.
It wasn't actually working. I think, yes, we have to do research. We have to be mindful, and we have to, eat more plants, is what we have to do.
Yes, go ahead.
Also, we have to really push our elected officials, to vote for sustainability and to vote for regulations that protect us, and to really jump up and down about that. I mean, we get very, concerned about how much things cost, and rightly so. California, worked out that we were being price gouged by, the oil companies when they upped their, the cost of oil to, crazy, the cost of gas to crazy prices, when Russia first invaded Ukraine. It was, crazy, insane. And now, Newsom is going after them to say, look, you price gouged. But, all of this stuff is interconnected, and we just, we have to be conscious. And I think you have to be, I know that there are a lot of things to worry about, and I just want to say to our listeners, I know it can sometimes feel overwhelming. So just pick the one environmental thing, that you care about, that means something to you, that, you want to, do something about, or, make it better, in your life, using less plastics, driving in your car less, all those things.
I do think that that's a great message, because otherwise you go, I don't know, man, it's all bad, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, which is sort of the way society's moving. Yeah, it's just too much. So I think that's really great advice. You can find her on social media at Belinda Waymouth, Waymouth, Belinda Waymouth, and she's here with good news and also concerning news on Thursdays with That's the Plan Stupid. Belinda Waymouth, thanks, Belinda.
My pleasure. Bye, you guys. Talk to you next week if you send me the link.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell, you'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.